It's your turn to read. To the weather experts, it was the great record storm ever to hit a populated area in western New Hampshire. To the Koch family of the Gulfport, Mississippi, it brought the night of terror such a few people have ever experienced. John Kosher Jr. knew the hurricane Camille would be bad. Radio television warned. Had sounds on Sunday, August 17th, 1968. As Camille lashed north across the Gulf of Mexico, it was certain to plummet Gulfport, Mississippi, where the Koch was certain to plumb Gulfport, Mississippi, where the Koch lived, among the coast of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Nearly 150,000 people were fleeing islands and safari grounds, but like thousands of others in the coastal community, John reluctantly had to abandon his home unless his family, his wife, Jan, and their 7 children agreed. 3 to 11 were clearly in danger. Trying to reason out the best course of action, he talked with his father and mother, who a month earlier moved from California to the 10-room house in Kasha. He also consulted Charlie Hill, a longtime friend who had driven from Las Vegas for a visit. John, 37, whose business, MAGA Productions, was right there in his home. He designed and developed educational toys, supplies, and all of this correspondent, engineering, drawing, artwork. There were the first on the floor, the familiar with the power of hurricanes. 4 years earlier, Hurricane Betsy had demolished his 4-bedroom home a few miles from the Gulfport. Kasha had wisely moved his family to a motel the night before, but the house stood only a few feet above sea level. Where elevations 23 feet above the tide water. No one spoke. Everyone knew there was no escape. They would live or die in this home. Charlie Hill had more or less taken responsibility for Kasha, neighbors, and her 2 children. The mother was on the verge of panic. She clutched his arms and kept repeating, "I can't swim. I can't swim." "You won't have to," he told her with outward calmness. "It's bound to end soon." Grandma reached out an arm around her husband's shoulder and put her mouth close to his ear. "Pop," she said, "I love you." He turned his answer, "I love you." His voice slacked his usual gruffness. John watched the water lap at the steps, and he felt a clutch of guilt. He had undertaken the ferocity of Camille. He had assumed that it would never happen, but it did. He held his head between his hands and silently prayed, "Get us out of this mess, will you?" A moment later, the hurricane in one mighty sweep lifted the entire roof off the house, sending it 40 feet through the air. The bottom step of the staircase broke apart, and the wall began to crumble on the Maroon Group. Dr. Robert Simpson directed the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, the greatest record storm ever to hit the populated area in the West Hampshires. In central 70 miles shot out winds nearly 200 miles per hour and raised tides as much as 30 feet along the Gulf Coast. It devastated everything in the swath. 19,467 homes and 709 small businesses were demolished over 7.5 miles. It tore three large cargo ships from the marooned beach. Telephone poles, 20-inch thick pines cracked like guns as the wind snapped them. To the west Gulfport, the town past Christine was virtually wiped out. Several vacations and luxury resorts apartments held hurricane parties to watch the storm from the spectral vantage point. Apartments were smashed by giant fists, and 26 people perished.